Hi, I'm Morgan Suter. I'm in charge of instructional technology at BC High. This video will show you how to use the brand new ScreenTime feature built into the latest iPad operating system. This lets you decide how and when the iPad gets used by your son. You do need to make sure you're running iOS 12.0 or higher. If you're not sure how to confirm that, please take a look at my short video on how to check your operating system. We're going to proceed now as if this is your first time using the ScreenTime feature. You can always go back and modify your choices later. Go to Settings, and on the left, press ScreenTime. On the right at the top, press Turn on ScreenTime. Press Continue. And then press This is my child's iPad. So there's 4 or 5 broad categories. Number 1, downtime. This is where you choose the time when the iPad will not be in use by your child. For example, by default, they've got 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. set up. If you want to change start or end, just press on one of them and change it to the time you want it to start or end, as the case may be. Once you've got it set the way you want, you'll press Set Downtime. The iPad, once you've done this, basically won't work during the downtime you set. It will work for certain special apps. We'll pick those a little bit later in the video. So you press Set Downtime, and you've moved on to the next category, which is App Limits. So you'll pick one or more categories, for example, social networking and games, and then you'll scroll down to find time amount and press that, and that lets you set a limit for the categories that you selected. So once you've got it set the way you want it, you'll then press Set App Limit, and social networking and games will be limited to this amount of time per day. Now we move on to content and privacy. Press Continue. You'll be asked to set a parent passcode. This is your own passcode. It's not the one that your son uses to unlock his iPad. Make this one something that you are not going to share with him. You're the only one in control of ScreenTime. It'll ask you to enter it again. And there you go. Now you can see a couple more categories that are available. We've already done downtime and app limits. Just below those, you'll see always allowed, and then also content and privacy restrictions. So if we press on always allowed, it'll ask you to enter that password that you just created. Here you have the list of apps that will work even during downtime. So right now, Messages, FaceTime, and Maps are selected by default. You can remove those by pressing on the little minus sign next to them. And then you can just start from scratch. You could say, for example, well, I always want e-textbooks, and I always want Kindle, and I always want Notability to work, because those are the apps that are educational that I want them to use even when the thing should be in downtime. You add those by pressing on the little green pluses at the side. When you've got that set up as you like, press on ScreenTime at the top. And now you can take a look at content and privacy restrictions. This is a large category. At the top, turn it on. First of all, iTunes and App Store purchases. Press on that. Installing apps, deleting apps, in-app purchases. I recommend that you disallow all of these so that you get to decide if and when these happen. So pressed on the top one, now I'm pressing on the middle one. Deleting apps, don't allow. In-app purchases, don't allow. Now, if your son wants to do any of those things, he has to ask your permission. Require password, always require. Again, up to you how you set these. I've got it right now in sort of the most restrictive form. Hit the back button. Now I'm going to take a look at allowed apps. All these apps are set to be allowed by default. If you decide, no, I don't want my son using FaceTime, for example, you can just switch it off. Up to you. Hit back. Content restrictions. This is a big one. There's a lot of different things you can mess with here. I think maybe the most important one, or the one a lot of people will go to, will be web content, the one in the middle here. I set my son's to just say limit adult websites. You can select allowed websites only, but that forces you to add the specific websites that you allow. I think that's a little bit difficult to manage. The one in the middle, limit adult websites, makes it so that no matter what browser they're using, this system will limit their access. Hit back. Hit back. And then there's a whole lot of privacy settings. You can mess with those to your liking. And then finally, the last two things I'll show you explicitly are down at the bottom under allowed changes. I recommend making passcode changes and account changes not allowed. When your son tells you his basic iPad access code, which he should not be allowed to change that code without letting you know. So passcode changes, make that not allowed, and account changes, make that not allowed. There we go. And remember, when you hit back, you can always go back to settings and hit screen time and then change any of these settings.